If I told you that I knew a man who would live forever, would you believe me? Or would you simply dismiss it as another example of science fiction? Hello, I'm Peter Ustinov. In the next few minutes, I'm going to take you into the world of the immediate future. A world where science fiction becomes fact, where people prepare to communicate with extraterrestrial life, where walls make music and lights appear to be alive, where human beings may one day live forever, where nothing is so unbelievable or so beautiful as the truth. Welcome to OMNI, the new frontier. In a moment, we'll meet someone straight out of the future. He's part man and part machine, what science fiction writers call a cyborg. We'll also meet a rare individual, a man who has managed to mix technology with art, who can make walls sing and children laugh. Then we'll take you into a mysterious underwater world where signals passed between scientists and dolphins may eventually lead us to communicate with life on distant planets. Join us as we leave the present and move into the world of the future, the world of OMNI, the new frontier. Bionics, a non-scientific term for the science of biological engineering, a science which enables us to replace vital parts of the human body with artificial components. Now, to me, the idea of a human being built entirely of replaceable parts is staggering, to put it mildly, especially if we consider the possibility of replacing a brain. But would such a creature really be a human being or simply a robot operated by an exquisitely engineered but replaceable computer? Or finally, would something in between, a cyborg, half man, half machine, be capable of rebuilding itself organ by organ until, like the hypothetical perfect machine, it lives forever under an eternal guarantee? This may look like Captain Hook's hook, but these steel fingers are connected to this man's brain. Larry Campbell, former railroad brakeman from Roy, Utah, lost his arm in an accident. His computerized bionic limb makes this new job possible.
Hey, Larry. Yeah, Bob. We got a problem down here.
But since that cold day in February 1977, Larry Campbell's world has changed forever.
Whatever you say.
His story began in a Utah freight yard when he slipped and fell between two freight cars.
When I threw myself out, something hooked me and flipped me on over, and I landed on my back. I thought I was all clear, and then a sharp pain, and I knew I was minus my arm.
Larry's left arm had been cut off near the shoulder. He was just a few heartbeats away from death. A brain in violent shock pours out a flood of its own painkillers, magic molecules that may account for the strange experience that probably saved his life.
As I was bent over holding my arm, I looked out over my right shoulder, and about 50 feet behind me, I saw myself standing there. And the body said, pick up the radio and call for help. So this I did, and then the body said, you better tie a tourniquet around your arm. You're going to lose too much blood. So immediately I grabbed my belt. Now on my belt I had a key ring and 2 or 3 other things. I didn't bother to pull those off. I just grabbed the belt and ripped it off out of the loops and wrapped it around the stub about 3 times, I believe. I'm not sure. Cinched it up, ran it through the brass loop and tucked it under and slid it around again and then cinched it as tight as I could. And then the being said, he's all right now. And then I remember I came back, just coming back to the body that was laying there, it was kneeling on the ground, and I re-entered through the elbow, through the stub, and that was the first time I felt any pain.
Relax, flex, relax.
Larry was lucky enough to live near the Center for Biomedical Design at the University of Utah, Salt Lake City.
All right, now flex the biceps.
I'm almost up to 2.
Okay, now let's compare it with the place we had before.
4.
That looks a little better, doesn't it?
The first problem was learning to consciously control his involuntary muscle signals.
Now that's the muscle that normally raises your natural arm.
Mm-hmm.
In the same way, that muscle is going to raise the electric arm.
Okay.
Okay?
His new bionic arm will react to electric signals relayed from the brain, to nerve, to muscle, to computer. So he can bend the elbow, turn the forearm, twist the wrist, and close the fingers.
Yes, try and see if you can get them both to go to 4 or 5 together.
Okay.
A computer must analyze Larry's specific needs. Limbs are never cut off on a dotted line. Each problem is unique. Many sensors map the electric circuits to the mini-computers that control his arm.
All right, Larry, if we should have a problem with
This is the most advanced bionic limb in the world.
We suspect it.
And yet it is a crude approximation of the real thing, the exquisitely engineered biological arm with its 35 muscles, 33 bones, and an ingenious labyrinth of control nerves.
They're connected.
In the elbow, 2 tiny computers, a direct development of space technology, control the arm movements. They translate human thought into action, giving orders to the tiny motor which powers his artificial muscles.
This part.
All those 2 put back together.
Larry's steel fingers move with precision, in coordination with his real hand. His brain is in complete control of both.
I don't know why. When you fix something, it stays fixed. When I let the jeweler work on it, I'm back downtown the next week.
I try.
Today, Larry has put his life in order.
Okay, thank you very much.
But there's even more to look forward to.
Try that out now. Unlock the arm.
For now, the hand is only cosmetic. Just a cover for the efficient grasp of steel
So
fingers.
now you've got your nice
For the future, however, the bioengineers plan to add a sense of touch. Fingers that will work with delicacy as well as strength. Fingers that will react to the touch of another hand.
Then it's easy. Okay, so go up and down with that a few times, and you can track me pretty well.
Yeah.
Dr. Stephen Jacobson, director of the center, is the creative force behind the new arm that's given Larry Campbell a new life.
To operate now.
I've never noticed too many people looking very strangely at me. I mean, some do, but I accept that. Or if they're curious, they immediately come over and talk to you. And they would say, "I'll bet that cost you an arm and a leg." And I say, "No, just an arm." And they'd start to get embarrassed. And I say, "Well, don't get embarrassed." I said, "That's the truth." And I said, the arm's gone, yes, but I'm still here and all right, so don't worry about it."
For the most part, we think of technology as being a serious and impersonal business. Mini-computers, microcircuitry, advanced rocketry. But technology doesn't always have to be so inflexible. Sometimes, you know, it can be fun. And in the hands of a gifted artist, technology becomes a kind of toy for the mind and a genuine source of pleasure for the human spirit.
Remo Saraceni. You want to see what is this? Number one, I think you should introduce yourself, okay? My name is
Remo Saraceni, a man who takes fun seriously
Derek. And yours?
Stephanie.
Stephanie.
and turns technology into art.
This is a sort of toy. You want to know how this works? This works with people energy. Only if we touch it, okay? You touch one, Stephanie. And then you touch me. You touch one. And then you touch me. Stephanie, too.
Did you pick this out of the book?
No, I made it from scratch. Yeah, from electronics. I don't think what I'm doing here are black boxes or magic things. Number one, all my technology is visible, is see-through, because I really want to show that the computer or the radio, the transistor is here to stay. It's very friendly, was invented, wanted by us, so it's here to help us.
Saraceni calls this a rainbow tunnel, and it leads into his home, a space every bit as colorful and inventive as he is. The environment responds as if it were alive. Saraceni calls this organic technology.
I think as soon as we forget to be a child, we are in trouble. Because as soon as we forget to play, we become too serious, and life will become a sort of punishment. Life is a gift. It's a beautiful gift.
In Saraceni's world, when people touch, they make music. The energy they exchange and the music they make brings them together in a perfect, if somewhat playful, fusion of humanity, art, and technology. Technology, sometimes a toy, more often a tool. Next, we'll see how a new technology may soon help us to communicate with alien life forms elsewhere in the universe. At this moment, the vast reaches of intergalactic space could well be filled with communication signals. Signals originating in the far corners of the universe. Signals that we still cannot hear. But when we do, will we be able to penetrate the language codes now beyond our comprehension? You're about to meet a group of young marine scientists who are trying to converse with dolphins in their own voice codes using sophisticated sound equipment. If they succeed, man may be a step closer to learning how to interpret the language of extraterrestrial life. That melody you hear is their first attempt at communicating with another species through music. Music, a universal language, a sophisticated communications medium for all life. The dolphin, possessor of an advanced sensory perception that responds to man's melodic calling card. Since 1978, Hardy Jones and a team of young marine scientists of the Living Ocean Society have gathered each summer in the warm waters of the Bahamas to study and interact with the same group of free dolphins.
What we need to do is to find out as much about these dolphins as Jane Goodall did about the chimps and the apes in Africa, so that when we leave here, we will have a definitive portrait of what a school of dolphins looks like.
Renewed contact with the scientists must be left to the dolphins themselves.
This looks like what you called chopped fin last year.
Through a vast sea alive with signals, they will mysteriously reappear, an uncanny ability to know friends from strangers.
Can you give me that drawing of Dee Dee?
The crew especially hopes to find Dee Dee, a particularly playful member of the dolphin group.
Somebody else had that one too. Is there a card made up on that?
Yeah.
Dolphins are gregarious and like to play in the bow wake. The crew thinks they recognize their old group.
1, 2, 3, 4. There's a couple more coming over there. Look, that one's got a remora. That one's got a remora right there. Another one. Is there any chance that could be Dee Dee?
Changing size. Look at it.
There's this one that's missing a part of its caudal fin. See, the left side is missing.
That one's upside down.
It's in front of the dorsal fin.
Okay. Look, let's shut the boat down. Shut it down. Shut it down. We'll get in the water, get Steve, and we'll get some sound.
I'll take it down.
Got the handle, madam?
These underwater communications allow divers to generate dolphin-like sounds and record corresponding responses. The previous summer, Dee Dee and her group had always responded to one of Hardy's signals with a unique pattern of clicks and buzzes. Dolphins have a brain size comparable to man. If this is Dee Dee and her group, Hardy has no doubt that they will remember the complex response code. The dolphins approach the divers quickly, as if recognizing them. Hardy signals his dolphin code words. He does not hear the proper response. Again, he signals. One of the dolphins signals back loud and clear. Then the others join in. Once again, their dolphins have returned.
One of them was definitely Dee Dee. And we had two others with the chopped dorsal and the chopped pectoral.
I noticed, Hardy, that a lot of times it seemed like at first they'd intensely sonar or call you a bit, and then they'd start mimicking that call, and then after a while it almost seemed like they were getting bored with it because they were having a very limited conversation. It's like, all right, so what else is new?
With the aid of a computer programmed to recognize dolphin sound patterns, they hope eventually to develop a technique for communicating in the dolphin language. Steve Gagne plays a music synthesizer through a hydrophone into the water and records the dolphin's verbal responses to his varied melodies. Intercommunication through music between species.
People observing from the railing here said that the dolphins seemed to hover about 50 yards away, and that their body motions were a little different than what we usually see. Like dolphins would be vertical in the water, just sort of gently wagging their fluke without going anywhere, just hanging out, kind of.
The animals are still around the boat, moving off to the stern a little bit now. They're getting whistles, some good click trains. Looks like it's going to be a good tape.
The dolphin's willingness to mimic human sounds and actions shows that conversations between these ancient friends may not be far off, and perhaps someday between man and his extraterrestrial cousins as well. People making music with dolphins. Possibly a preview of our first conversation with intelligent beings from another planet. Does this seem far-fetched to you? The average dolphin is perhaps not as skeptical as we are, nor as dependent on government funding for research. We've had a glimpse of the future and seen new fields of interaction. A man interacts with a computer, the result, a bionic arm. Technology and art interact under the guidance of another man, and the result, walls that sing. A team of scientists interacts with a group of dolphins in search of a possible language for the future. Join us soon for more of OMNI, the new frontier. I once heard about a man who was struck by a bolt of lightning. He was knocked unconscious. When he woke up, he felt strange, not unnaturally. But he was glad to be alive. And soon after, he noticed that his eyesight and hearing, both of which had been defective, had greatly improved. And to his amazement, he also noticed that he was beginning to grow a full head of hair, although he had been bald for 35 years. Hello, I'm Peter Ustinov. And that was a true story. Electricity is a powerful and mysterious force, and one which flows in every living thing. In fact, what draws the lightning in this globe to my hand are the electrical circuits in my own body. In a moment, we'll follow this mysterious force into the future. Welcome to OMNI, the new frontier. In our first episode, we'll meet a marvel of electronic ingenuity. Not a machine, but a man who has been wired for life. Then we'll meet a woman who makes music with machines and uses electricity to create a new kind of excitement.
Try me again.
Join us as we move into the future with OMNI, the new frontier. The body electric, life humming through each nerve like electric current through a telephone wire. But when that precious current is broken, vital brain messages become garbled or lost, and the results in human terms can be heartbreaking. Multiple sclerosis, muscular dystrophy, cerebral palsy. In a moment, you'll meet a young man who may have overcome his own tragic handicap by having himself quite literally electrified. Undergoing preoperative tests is Kevin Wachtel, a victim of cerebral palsy.
How old were you when your parents first noticed that you had displayed a symptom?
About 3 or 4, I guess.
3 or 4 years old?
Yeah, I think so.
Signals from his perfectly normal brain are scrambled, confusing the muscles of his left side.
How long is it that you've been this way, that you've stabilized the way you are now?
Probably about 16 years.
16 years. Have you ever had
At 22, Kevin is still a prisoner of that faulty communication. When it comes to his right side, Kevin's nervous system works well. The clear messages are being sent to the proper target, and the responses are perfect.
And open your hand. All right, now you're going to try to touch your fingers with your thumb, one after the other.
Okay.
Without the normal use of both hands, Kevin faces constant frustration. To need help in so many little ways is embarrassing and painful.
Try to open your hand up as much as you can.
For the left side, try as he may, Kevin cannot force the messages into his hand.
Try to touch the tip of your nose with your hand now.
A useless, exhausting struggle.
Is that as far as you can get your hand open?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah. How about that thumb?
Yet he continues to prove to himself over and over that all the potential for a full life is still there. One working arm must do the job of two, and sometimes with great effort, it almost succeeds.
Good shot. Nice.
Up the other way.
Up the other way?
Yeah.
Kevin's determination to learn a new skill is part of his goal, a life of independence.
My dream was always to be a truck driver.
To achieve it would be a personal triumph of coordination, mind and muscles joining together as a team.
Gotta go towards you a little bit more. Let the clutch up slow when you try to put it in. It'll go in a little bit better.
But driving one of these on his own remains Kevin's dream, always just beyond his reach. At St. Barnabas Hospital in New York City, Kevin finds new hope on the frontier of modern medical science. One chance against overwhelming odds. With radical new technology, brain signals sent through the body can be picked up, like a foreign language, and translated into a coherent dialogue between man and machine. This machine is recording Kevin's internal communication system prior to implanting a man-made electrical unit that could be tuned into the natural communication network that controls his body. Readings from this test may pave the way for the use of a new technique pioneered by Dr. Joseph Volokh.
I'm happy to say I think we can really help you. And this is going to be done primarily with a spinal cord stimulation. In other words, what we're going to be able to do is overcome these abnormal impulses that is causing the spasticity in your hand and the deformity by placing an electrical impulse into your spinal cord. Now this we're able to do with a system that we've developed here with this very thin catheter assembly. The needle is placed down in the middle of your back here.
A slender wire carrying 4 electrodes would be placed right next to Kevin's spinal cord.
Once this is put in place, this needle is removed and it is then attached.
Then a computerized receiver under the skin will pick up messages from a transmitter that Kevin will carry with him.
Combinations from the outside.
It could mean that for the first time in Kevin's life, the lines of communication between his brain and left side will be unjammed, allowing him to pursue work, sports, a social life, everything most of us take for granted. Now a hopeless condition could change by means of a tricky surgical procedure once thought to be a pure science fantasy. But these doctors have already entered the future with evidently no textbooks to guide them. Their technology and medical tactics have been inspired by the unique vision of Dr. Volokh. The high-powered fluoroscope will give a clear view of the 4 tiny electrodes as they are fed into the midline of Kevin's back. The first task, to clear a delicate pathway for an apparatus no larger than a thread. The electrodes will lie but a millimeter from the spinal cord and could possibly inflame, if not seriously damage, the nervous system. The pre-surgical probe. For Dr. Volokh, a crucial moment. If he's successful, the electrodes will rest on the outer covering along the spinal cord for the remainder of Kevin's life. Through an opening about the size of a pencil dot, an artificial nervous system is manipulated into position. But has it come too close to the live nerves? All depends on one doctor's ability to fulfill his own vision of the future. The electrode assembly is in place. Now the endings of the catheter's 4 fragile wires are drawn out through a small puncture. A receiver will pick up the artificial signals. In response, the electrodes may be able to unscramble the brain's messages. The receiver, to be placed just under the skin of Kevin's back, is a computerized control center, programmed to intercept, unscramble, and redistribute faulty brain signals. Later, a small antenna will be taped directly above it. Now, the attachment of electrodes and receiver. Kevin will carry a transmitter that will relay messages to this apparatus when it's inside him. The implant is complete. The first of 2 critical dramas is almost over. But before anyone rests, Dr. Volokh must review his own work.
George, it's perfect position. We don't have to go any further.
The second drama begins.
Electrodes up here?
4 of them, yeah.
That's right where they are.
Mm-hmm.
Okay?
Yeah.
Now the moment of truth. Let's see what we got here.
The battery-controlled outside transmitter is put on its first setting.
you're going to feel the stimulation continuously, all right? But what I want you to do is if you fail to feel that stimulation, you let us know, or if it becomes uncomfortable, you let us know.
Yep.
What do you feel?
Numbness.
Little tingling?
Yeah.
Whereabouts?
In my hand.
Good.
My arm.
In your left hand?
Mm-hmm.
Very good. So what we're going to start now is that electrode analysis you and I talked about. We'll be making changes every day, and then we'll have to see what happens.
The 4 electrodes have 18 possible combinations of power and frequency. Testing will go on for 2 weeks.
Put your arm out again. Touch your nose once again. Put your arm out.
Too little electrical impulse could mean failure to help Kevin. Too much could severely burn the live nerves. All the combinations must be tried to find the setting most suitable to Kevin. A young man's future depends on space-age computer technology. During these 2 most important weeks of his life, he must wait for the answers. Carrying the transmitter in his pocket, Kevin Wachtel is experiencing normal brain communication to his left side for the first time ever. And muscles that have been asleep all of his life will soon be reawakened through physical therapy. But already his once useless left hand can firmly grip the giant wheel. Only a short time ago, the brain's messages to the hand were disturbed and the hand wouldn't work. But now, the receiver under his skin can intercept and convert the faulty signals, giving control of the hand back to Kevin. Kevin's mind has always been clear. Now his body can follow through. Because a few courageous missionaries in medical science have dared to pursue their own visions of the future, a young man, and perhaps thousands more to follow, can finally pursue their own dreams. Isn't it marvelous that electricity like this could also be used one day to regrow entire limbs? Well, in a moment, we'll meet a musician whose playful experiments with electricity may be the forerunners of a new approach to both listening and learning.
Welcome to Xenon. Welcome to Xenon. Welcome to Xenon. Welcome to Xenon. Welcome to Xenon.
Suzanne Ciani, electronic composer. She captures the indefinable and turns it into music. Her instruments are synthesizers. Her vocabulary, words like reverb, delay, amplitude. She's written whole scores for movies by touching buttons, patching chords. But now a new challenge. A pinball manufacturer has asked her to design special sounds for a new game.
Okay, so we're going to start off on the background sound.
A double challenge, sounds and voices that would play off each other.
I was very interested in getting the whole composition to work, to think of the pinball as actually playing a piece. Because I think to add excitement to the game, that the background sound should speed up as you play the game. So I can put in just a series of pitches. Okay, now I'm going to ask it to play and see what it does here.
a whole new world. What are the magic sources of these sounds? Well, the secret lies in a chip. The chip is a tiny computer program the size of a domino. It stores 48,000 bits of information. When commanded by an outside computer, these bits are spat out rapidly as sound.
The artwork has different phases of transformation.
Chicago, the home office. The sound chips were fun. Now the hard part. A voice chip with something new.
It's a place, it's a person, it's a state of being, it's a sort of euphoric transformation. And if we could somehow convey all this through the use of voice, we've never done that. It's been so functional and dry before.
I just think it would be really nice to use a female voice in the game as
a female voice would tie in great.
You know, with the voice chip.
That would be unique.
You know? Something that hasn't been done before, I don't think. You know, I can process the real voice sound and give it a little bit of a different edge.
An effect, or?
Yeah, it's like it could go, for instance, even with my voice, the whole gamut of, you know, from male to female even, you know, and everything in between. Hello, hello, hello. 1, 2, 3. Welcome, welcome.
A female voice in a pinball game. Now, how to fit the sound in a voice chip?
Just enough to...
Female voices, of a higher frequency than male voices, need almost twice as many bits of information.
Okay.
The chip allows her a total of 5 seconds.
Xenon. Great. Oh.
So I get this delay. Okay. The idea of using the short grunts and groans came to me when I watched people playing the game. The way that people expressed their frustrations or their involvement with the game. And I wanted the game to do that back. I wanted it to talk back to the people playing. It'd be good for when they lose the ball. You know when the ball goes through the tube? Well, how about, you know, I could set it up with my voice saying, try tube shot.
Try tube shot. Try tube shot. Try tube shot. Try tube shot.
It's a kind of emotional let go. You know, when you fall through that tube, you're letting go.
The recorded sounds are analyzed, measured, compressed to fit the chip, then programmed into the chip by computer to interplay with the lights and scores.
Great. Perfect.
Finally, the chips are placed in the pinball machine.
This is our sound chip, and this is our speech.
Great.
Okay, we are all set.
Ready?
Let me close this door. Would you like to go first? Power up.
Power up.
Welcome to Xenon.
All right.
Well, before working on the game, I must admit I was not much of a pinball player. Of course, now I'm a fanatic.
Sound chips are new. Today we hear Suzanne's voice for 5 seconds. In the future, women with sound chips in their earrings will listen to Beethoven's symphonies.
Chips in the 80s, of course, are going to be every place, giving us information, giving us pleasure, getting us excited.
Creating new sounds, disembodied voices, music from instruments that don't exist. This is the power of electricity. I want to play a little game with you. Call it Brain Teaser. Watch the screen closely as the alphabet appears. All the letters will appear except Z or Z. Now, which side does the letter Z belong on, the right or the left? If you enjoy games of this sort, I'm not sure that I always do, you may have something in common with the subject of our next story. His name is Eugene Volokh. He's a child prodigy. And like most people blessed with great intelligence, he loves testing his mind on intellectual puzzles, like this one. Have you got it? Well, if not, I'll be back at the end of our episode with the answer, provided, of course, Eugene gives me a little help. Eugene Volokh, consultant for a giant computer firm, mathematical wizard, college junior, and director of his own software company.
Good hamburger.
His IQ, 206. His age, 13.
Well, I believe that many people in their minds have a stereotype of what a gifted child is supposed to be. And essentially it's a child that sits in his room all day, reads incomprehensible mathematical books with all sorts of weird stuff lying around. Typically has eyeglasses, freckles, and dark hair.
Eugene Volokh came to this country from Russia 5 years ago. He lives in Los Angeles with his parents and his little brother, Sasha. He is one of the gifted among us. All through history, there have been child prodigies. Picasso, at the age of 14, qualified for the Barcelona Academy of Fine Arts, his stunning talent destined to influence the history of art. Isaac Newton, an astonishing child, he first revealed the physically legislated universe. As for prodigious genius, Leonardo da Vinci, who envisioned hundreds of technological advances centuries before their invention. Albert Einstein, who redesigned the way we look into man and matter. All these men shared the extraordinary gift of genius. Their very existence influenced the course of world history.
Drawbacks of being bred are often...
Eugene enjoys this gift precociously.
There's certainly far more advantages than there are drawbacks, like just the very fact that considering I am right now 13 in UCLA, let's say I will finish it when I'm 15. That's 6 or 7 more years of my life that I can use on something productive. 6 or 7 years, shall I say, added to my life.
This is Eugene's playground, a room designed for a prodigy's life, in which learning is the greatest pleasure and a computer his closest playmate.
This is a so-called terminal, which is the computer's window to the world. I can right now work being miles or hundreds of miles away from the main computer. Now what I do is I say hello, and I hello under my user name and my account name. Now I can do whatever I want to. I can, for instance, run a program of mine that I wrote. Another thing that I can do is I can go into a program called an editor and create new programs and also make mistakes.
Being a prodigy does have certain shortcomings. Eugene may be intellectually superior to most adults, but in a world of grown-ups, he is chronologically still a child.
I think that you should have taken a straw for the drink.
God had meant us to drink with straws. He would have made us with long, tubular-shaped mouths.
I would probably guess that I have about as capable of being able to drive as any other 16-year-old or just a 17-year-old or whatever. Perhaps in some ways, for my business and for my schooling, I have to. It is even more necessary for me to drive. Nonetheless, society denies me that for at least 3 more years or so. Same with voting. Society is aimed at the average person. Society does poorly when dealing with people who are either smarter or better than the average, or dumber or worse than the average.
You can't measure prodigy, which often focuses on one subject, but superintelligence can be rated. Here we have Desmond Atkins, a gifted 5-year-old. A very special boy with an extremely high IQ.
How about a flower that rhymes with lazy?
Daisy.
Good stuff. Okay. Now, I'm going to
I want
say
some
2 things.
toffees.
A toughie? Okay, I've got a toughie for you. Are you ready for it?
Yeah.
Tell me which is the hot season of the year. Very, very good.
At the National Training and Evaluation Center, his reading has been tested at a 10-year-old level.
Taxes or fight wars.
Oh, this one's pantomime.
Yet true prodigy is a far rarer gift.
How are a lion and a tiger alike?
They're both wildcats.
How are a hammer and a saw alike? What are they both?
They're both tools.
A bird and a bee.
Can we ever learn to take any intelligence and boost it to the level of genius? The mystery lies in the depth of the brain. Speed of reaction in the brain is one of the factors that govern intelligence. But how can we develop a super mind? In the future, superbrains may be developed by genetic intervention, by new and more powerful chemical accelerators that'll speed up the average reaction time of 250 miles an hour. But for today, the puzzle of prodigy remains. It's a marvelous gift from an anonymous source, another mysterious dimension of the human brain.
Okay, this paper...
Eugene in professional consultation at a leading computer manufacturer.
Very trivial, just in general, to anybody who knows about anything in privilege more than... Accumulation of knowledge is a pleasure to me. In this particular case, my job is a pleasure to me. Most pleasure to me is just the very fact that I'm doing something that I like, for instance, working on computers. I like computers. It's a pleasure to me, of course, as just probably everybody, to achieve recognition for that which I do, and I hope I do well. How old is Meliello?
7 or 8 years old.
Hey, the computer's younger than I am.
Meliello? That's an interesting way of looking at things, I guess.
Does Meliello mind working with me?
As infatuated as he is by the silicon chip, Eugene remains in awe of our carbon-based human brain.
Carbon intelligence, silicon intelligence. Computers were built by human beings. They do not have the power to think. They have the power to do what they are told to do. What is so special about our brain is we have not yet found how it works. Brain is more sophisticated than any computer. It has more neurons, more impulses. And if we cannot emulate it, man will still be the most sophisticated, living or non-living object on Earth.
What would happen if we could learn to escalate our intelligence, to create a race of mental giants by expanding our intellectual powers 10, 20, or 1,000 times? Well, if we could expand our ethical powers at the same rate, we would then have accomplished something quite wonderful. But in any case, I would like to answer the question we posed earlier when we showed you our little brain teaser. The Z, or Z, goes on the right side, of course. Why, you ask? Well, look closely. The Z, or Z, like all the other letters on the right, is made with what? Straight lines. So, there you have it, a simple answer to a difficult problem. In the end, that may be the best definition of what it means to be a genius.